The representation of nerds in pop culture has evolved over time, from negative stereotypes to widespread acceptance. Previously shown to be socially awkward, introverted outsiders, the image has shifted, with geek culture now being mainstream. This celebration can be attributed to a rise in popularity for video games, science fiction, and comic books, plus a broader acceptance of intellect and curiosity. In today's video, we're going to evaluate the Survivor players who have taken these stereotypes and worn them as a badge of honor. What's up, guys? My name is Devin, and I am the host of Let's Play Survivor, and this is the top 10 nerds in Survivor history. Coming in at number 10 is Yao Man Chen. Entering Survivor as an IT director with college degrees from MIT and UC Santa Barbara, Yao Man stepped onto the beach as an unforeseen challenge threat who was able to use physics to his advantage. In Fiji, Yao Man navigated the game as the lead strategist alongside eventual winner Earl Cole. Yao Man was able to overturn his fate in the minority by using immunity idols to his advantage. One of the originators of the fake idol, Yao Man became the first person to successfully play a hidden immunity idol on themselves. Despite this, he is most known for the infamous negotiation and failed agreement he had with Dreams. On day 34, Yao Man won a Ford truck that he used as leverage in a deal. The agreement was that if Yao Man gave away the truck, Dreams would give him immunity at the Final Four in the event that Dreams won. Dreams did end up winning the Final Four immunity, but due to a surprise Final Three, he went back on his deal, leaving Yao Man vulnerable. This led to the fan favorite going home in a 3-1 vote, sealing his fate as the final juror. With many believing Yao Man takes on the title of Sole Survivor, no matter who he goes up against, Dreams going back on his word changed the history of Survivor forever. With a unique spirit that won over the hearts of America, Yao Man was awarded a spot on the Favorites tribe 2 seasons later. Unfortunately, his savvy gameplay from Fiji came back to bite him, as he was labeled the most threatening player on the returning tribe. This reputation is what led to his early departure as the third person voted out. The fanfare for Yao Man has been lost over the years, as we are nearly 2 decades removed from his original season. Nonetheless, Yao Man brought a unique personality to the game in which we had never seen before, and was truly one of the biggest players of the late 2000s. At number 9 is the winner of Survivor 42, Marianne Oketch. Fans' first impression of Marianne was that of an overly excited, spastic player who could not contain her excitement when speaking to Jeff. Coming into the season as a huge Survivor fan, a passionate video and board game girly, and a lover of the nerdy boy, Marianne started her Survivor journey as an outcast on the dominant Taku tribe. Her larger-than-life personality made many of her castmates hesitant to work with her early on. However, going into the merge as a bit of an outsider, Marianne was able to use her unique quirks to her advantage. Perfecting the use of emotions as a strategic weapon, Marianne soon found herself solidified in the numbers that would carry her deep into the game. Most known for her power play at the Final Six, where she used an extra vote to send home the season's lead strategist and one of her closest allies, Omer, Marianne was able to navigate herself to the final tribal council, but was still considered an underdog due to her tribemates not understanding the scope of her gameplay. In what could be considered one of the strongest final tribal council performances of the new era, Marianne was able to articulate her gameplay to the jury and showed that every move along the way had well thought out intentions. Due to this strong performance, Marianne was able to get the majority of the jury on her side, ending the season as our sole survivor in a 7-1-0 vote. Coming in at number 8 is our alpha Survivor nerd, Yul Kwon. With a background in academia with degrees from Stanford and Yale, a great physique, and a strategic game that had never been seen before, Yul can be defined as the blueprint of a perfect Survivor player. In his original season of Cook Islands, Yul led an underdog alliance of 4 to prominence. With a hidden immunity idol as leverage, Yul and his I-24 alliance systematically took out the opposing tribe one by one. Using his wits to his advantage, Yul was able to make it to the final tribal council alongside his I-24 ally Ozzy. At the final 3, Yul was able to sway the numbers his way, winning in a narrow 5-4-0 vote. 13 years later, Yul made his long-awaited return, coming back for a second time in the epic showdown of Winners at War. Unfortunately for Yul, he entered the season as one of the least connected players, which would contribute to his early downfall. The smart, strong, social, and strategic male figure is an archetype Survivor has tried to replicate over the years with minimal luck. Well over a decade after his Survivor debut, Yul's legacy speaks for itself and lands him atop the mountain as one of the franchise's most successful Survivor nerds. And our 7th spot is the player I would define as the most nerdy of any player to grace the Survivor beach, Christian Hubicki. Straight out of an episode of The Big Bang Theory, Dr. Hubicki is a robotics engineer who discusses quantum theories with Jeff at Tribal Council. A beloved player, Christian was not only great television, delivering one-liners and quips that we had never experienced before, but he was a good Survivor player too. Narratively designed as an underdog on the David tribe, Christian was anything but. He quickly was cemented as one of the season's biggest characters and players. Coming into the merge, down in numbers, Christian played an idol at the final 12 that would extend his Survivor life for another 13 days. Thereafter, he was an integral part, blindsiding some of the season's biggest players such as Dan, Alec, and Carl. Although Christian's charisma could only take him so far, on day 35, he was voted out, ending his Survivor journey for now. Deemed as one of the series' biggest fan favorites to the likes the show has not seen since Malcolm during the mid-20s, Christian was announced as one of 24 players returning for the landmark 50th season. Debuting in the spring of 2026, Christian's Survivor story is still not complete. Landing at number 6 is Spencer Ryman Bledsoe. A chess master, Survivor superfan, and economics major from the University of Chicago, these are some of the cliches that landed him on the Brains tribe in Cagayan. Living up to many of the nerdy social stereotypes, early on Spencer viewed his tribe mates as chess pieces and struggled to connect with them on a human level. During his return in Cambodia, Spencer made more of a concerted effort to be less robotic by connecting with his tribe mates over things like home life and family. On his debut season of Cagayan, Spencer was able to overcome many of the obstacles placed in front of him. His story is that of an underdog who existed on the wrong side of the numbers for the majority of the game. As one of the season's outcasts, Spencer was able to find unstable footing in the game en route to a Final Four appearance. Thanks to a combination of 3 individual immunity wins and being the swing vote for multiple major blindsides, Spencer found himself as the biggest threat to win the game, second only to Tony. Ending the season in 4th as our second to last boot, this was not the end of Spencer's story. Returning for Cambodia, Spencer redefined his game and took full control of his second chance. Despite a rocky start, Spencer found himself as an integral part of the post-game dynamics, voting within the majority on every vote in the post-merge. However, in the end, this was not enough to sway the jury in his favor. Spencer ultimately finished the season tied for second place as a 0-vote finalist. Making it to the top 4 on multiple occasions is a rare feat in the game of Survivor. Even though he was never able to claim the crown of sole survivor, I would consider his story a success. We were able to watch a young man overcome some of his biggest battles on screen for the world to see. As a main character on 2 of the franchise's highest rated seasons, Spencer finds himself in elite territory as our 6th highest rated Survivor nerd. Entering this list at the 5th spot is Stephen Fishbach. Despite having a worse average placement than some of the players rated beneath him, I feel Stephen's overall impact in the Survivor fan community should be enough to give him a nudge into this ranking. A Yale graduate with a combination of smarts and charisma, Stephen found himself in an unlikely duo with the season's golden boy, J.T. Thomas. Dubbed by his tribe mates as the Wizard, Stephen found himself secure in a majority alliance that allowed him to seamlessly navigate to the end of the game. Like many of his cohorts on this list, Stephen was the driving strategic force that ran his original season of Tocantins. 7 years after his collapse at the final Tribal Council, Stephen was voted back into the game by fans for a second chance. The story of Stephen's second chance was defined by his one-sided rivalry with Survivor's new golden boy, Joe Anglem. Stephen had a few social misreads early in Cambodia, but was able to recover due to a close relationship with eventual winner Jeremy Collins. Much like his debut season, Stephen was one of the stronger strategic forces in Cambodia, with none of the same success. To this day, Stephen remains as one of the more popular and well-connected Survivor players due to his long-standing relationship with Rob Cesternino and continued presence on Rob Has a Podcast. Stephen stands as one of the faces of the successful nerd archetype and remains as a fan favorite all these years later. Sliding into the 4th spot is the Survivor community's favorite know-it-all, Rob Cesternino. Rob is Survivor's original student of the game, completing his college thesis on the impact of reality television. You hear it about a lot of people, but Rob truly is one of the best to never win. On his original season of Amazon, he mastered a never-before-seen strategy by flipping back and forth between opposing alliances. And if not for an unceremonious immunity run by Jenna, Rob would stand amongst the greats as a sole survivor. 2 seasons later, Rob returned for All-Stars with a massive target on his back. In a small 6-person tribe, there was nowhere for Rob to hide. Despite flaming out early in his return season, Rob has gone on to build a reality podcasting empire. Rob is the face of the online Survivor community and is the leader of the Survivor Super Nerd fandom. Remaining as a massive fan favorite, Rob is a true Survivor icon and is a player fans are desperate to see return. In the third spot, I have Survivor South Pacific winner Sophie Clark. 23 seasons and 11 years into the series, Sophie laid the groundwork for women like her to follow. Seen as one of the weaker players in the post-merge, Sophie operated as the calming, logical one amongst the chaos of the Upolu Alliance. Sophie surprised many in her debut season when she went on to win 3 individual immunity challenges, including closing out the season with the final immunity around her neck. She doesn't play a flashy game, but has great awareness and maintained loyalty until the end. She was on the correct side of every post-merge vote, which allowed her to trek into the final tribal council. Sophie was able to make a strong case in front of the jury that ultimately awarded her with the $1 million prize. In Sophie's return season of Winners at War, we saw her align with some of the other disconnected Survivor winners. She ended up making a close partnership with Sarah Lacina, becoming a key player in the early post-merge game. She was ultimately blindsided by her allies for being perceived as a threat. I consider Sophie to be one of the more underrated and underappreciated players in the show's franchise. She is incredibly well-rounded and is someone who I see having success anytime she steps onto the beach. In second place is John Cochran. The duality of Cochran's 2 Survivor experiences is night and day. Self-described as anxious and neurotic, Cochran did not play well in his debut season of South Pacific. Dubbed early on as the weakest member of his tribe, Cochran remained on the outside of Ozzy's alliance much of the pre-merge. Surprisingly, he was able to skate through the early stages of the game unscathed, ultimately being saved by Ozzy's self-sacrifice. Without this, Cochran would have been the 7th player voted out, sent to Redemption Island, and the legacy of John Cochran would be remembered as unremarkable. Instead, his Survivor life would continue as he rolled into the merge alongside his fractured Savai'i alliance. Considered the most memorable move of the season, Cochran turned his back on his former tribe mates. Cochran felt unappreciated, spoken down to, and was treated less than by those around him. This would end up backfiring on Cochran, as flipping to Upolu got him no further into the game than Savai'i would have. Once his previous tribe was decimated, he was the next to be picked off. 3 seasons later, Cochran would return as a favorite in Caramoan with a new sense of swagger. In this season, Cochran absolutely dominated every outlet of the game, showcasing one of the most masterful performances the series has ever seen. A personal collaboration of strategy, self-awareness, social finesse, and personal growth, Cochran would go on to play a perfect game. In my opinion, you will not find a Survivor nerd with a greater story arc than Cochran. He battled through his first season experiencing a multitude of lows, treated as the black sheep only to rise from the ashes and become one of the series' greats. A number 1 is who I consider the queen of the nerds, Aubrey Bracco. If Sophie created the blueprint, Aubrey has gone on to perfect it. She has the glasses, is good at puzzles, strategic, a bit neurotic, and has all the quirks of a typical nerd. Aubrey debuted on season 32, Korong, as part of the Brains tribe. Early on, she struggled to adapt to the game around her, but was able to make a quick turnaround. From the start of the merge, she found herself in a power position as one of the key players of the season. She was the leading force of every vote, voting correctly at every tribal council leading up to the final 3. Unfortunately, once she got there, a lack of social connections would be her downfall, controversially landing Aubrey in 2nd place. 2 seasons later, Aubrey returned for Game Changers, walking onto the beach as one of the more threatening players. She played a very different game this time around, as she was on the wrong side of the numbers for the majority of the season. Regardless of this, Aubrey was able to fight towards a top 5 placement while her back was against the wall. She later returned for a 3rd season in unremarkable fashion and is scheduled to make a 4th appearance on the landmark 50th season. While already an iconic player, Aubrey has a chance to etch herself amongst the greats. Only time will tell how great she can become, but for now, she is firmly planted as the number 1 nerd in Survivor history. So there you have it, my top 10 nerds in Survivor history. Who did I leave off the list, and who do you consider to be the king and queen of the Survivor nerds? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Subscribe for more weekly Survivor content. And until next time, the tribe has spoken.